WalterPicks app during this draft as well. But we are going to getting this draft started right now. All right, let's start the draft order, set the draft order, randomize. One second. We are reassigning me to the 12th pick. Because I did just get the 12th pick. This is a 14-person draft. I did just get the 12th pick in a real high-stakes league that I'm in, and I want to test it out. All right, we're starting the draft. If you are live with us on YouTube, check out the new feature we have in the WalterPicks app that I'm going to be testing out on this live. That is League Sync functionality in our draft tool in the WalterPicks app. Very excited for this. This is going to live. Let me refresh this. This is going to live in real time as we're drafting, going to sync what picks are being made during the draft so that we can get live custom insights during our drafts, custom to our league settings, custom to who we've already picked, custom to who's still left. This thing is going to be absolutely, we're going to be able to dominate drafts with this. I'm very excited for it. You can see live on YouTube. If you want to check out what I'm talking about, you can see what I'm talking about live on YouTube. Flip the screen. How do I flip the screen? Let's see. Let's see if I can do that. There probably is a way, but I'm not exactly sure how to do that. That might be a task for another day. Maybe I can do it right on TikTok. Wait. Enhance. Here it is. I think there's a mirror. I'm not seeing it. Pretty sure there is a feature on TikTok though that I could just flip it. Thought on triple stack: Burrow, Chase, Higgins, keep or trade. Yeah, I'm fine with triple stacking those three guys. Definitely fine with that. And I'm about to be on the clock. We are about to be on the clock. This is a 14-person PPR league. I have the 12th pick. 14-person PPR league. I have the 12th pick. And we're one pick away from me now. Stephon Diggs still on the board. Devontae Adams still on the board. But the running backs just fly off the board. Travis Kelce gets taken one pick before me. And I like the running backs that are left. DeAndre Swift is left. Aaron Jones is still there. Saquon Barkley is still there. I like all three of those guys, but I don't feel great about any of them in the first round. I do feel pretty good about taking Stephon Diggs in this spot. Walter is pushing me pretty hard to take DeAndre Swift at the moment. We have DeAndre Swift ranked just ahead of Saquon Barkley. And man, his ceiling and floor does look pretty enticing. I'm not going to lie. I am going to actually go with DeAndre Swift here. This is a PPR league. DeAndre Swift did average almost 100 yards per game. Almost 100 yards per game he averaged last year. Parker's in the chat saying we got to go with DeAndre Swift. I did actually take DeAndre Swift with this pick. We'll see who's left. Stephon Diggs went one pick after. I do think Stephon Diggs is a little bit safer than DeAndre Swift in PPR leagues. Let me swipe back here so we can get the updated look at what Walter's thinking. Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams get snagged. If you're watching live on TikTok, you're seeing, I think, the mirror reverse of the draft, but you can sort of still follow along what's going on. Then Jones on the way back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would be happy with DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones. And I've done a couple mock drafts already. This is not the 32-person WalterPicks League. No, this is a 14-person mock draft with members of the audience. So there's a bunch of people in this draft, including some of our creators, but this is a 14-person mock draft. And the more mock drafts I do for season-long leagues, I got to start to transition away from best ball, get my mind right for these high stakes season long leagues that I'll be in, running backs looking pretty good, man. I'm not going to lie. It's the running backs, they really do dry out so much once you get to the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And some of the receivers that are available in those rounds are much more appealing to me than the running back. So I am strongly considering in my first 3 picks in these recent mock drafts that I've done, given where the average draft position is at, strongly considering 2 running backs in the first 3 picks. How do I join some of the high stakes leagues you are in? I will be doing leagues with members of the audience this season. All you got to do is join our Discord, which is completely free. And then you'll know exactly how and when to do that. You can find the Discord in the link tree. Aaron Jones does get picked before our pick. Alvin Kamara off the board now as well. Walter is telling me I should go wide receiver again. Actually, I went Swift with the first pick. It's giving a slight edge to wide receiver. Again, you can see what I mean by what Walter's suggesting. If you come to the YouTube live, we actually just implemented League Sync functionality into our app. And yeah, I think I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb here. CeeDee Lamb is the end of a tier here, in my opinion, at the wide receiver position. There's a drop-off after CeeDee Lamb is taken. CeeDee Lamb is the last receiver that's just extremely safe. We know CeeDee Lamb is leading the Cowboys in targets, probably by a very considerable margin. There's no more Amari Cooper in Dallas. He still has Dak Prescott there, though really one of the offenses that can score top 5 in the league points per game. So I like CeeDee Lamb a lot, especially in PPR leagues. So I start this draft with DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb. Why are they drafting Kamara so early? I thought he got suspended. He hasn't been suspended. He hasn't been suspended yet, is what I should say. There was a very decent amount of speculation that he would get suspended because back when the Pro Bowl happened, he fought a guy in a club. Like he got in trouble. And there's a video of him doing it, but it is not a public video. People thought the video would get leaked. It hasn't gotten leaked. If it does get leaked, he's almost definitely getting a 4 to 6 game suspension. But as we get closer and closer to the season, it's looking more and more likely that Alvin Kamara will actually not be suspended this season, but likely next season because the legal hearings and stuff are going to get pushed. And so this might actually not be a suspension until next season. So he's actually starting to get taken early and early in drafts yet again. Fournette weight is going to slow him down. Yeah, he apparently weighed 160 pounds. Apparently he weighed 160 pounds. 260 pounds. 160 would be extremely late. 260 pounds when he played at 220 last year. It's not a good thing. The weight's not a good thing for Leonard Fournette, but he does still have another 5 weeks to get in shape for the season. I think that's probably plenty of time. Hey, Walter, I'm the one who made the 50-man league. That is just absolutely ridiculous, man. Keep trade cut Javonte, Breece, Connor, Jones. Javonte, Breece, Connor, Jones. I would definitely keep Javonte over all those guys. I wish you could draft on PC. I don't know what that means. What do you mean, Arjun Baller? The League Sync feature is game-changing. Yeah, Ben, it really is. It's been exciting to test out. This is live in the App Store now. What's going on, Yarjma? Who you like the most today? James Conner, Aaron Jones, Javonte. Yeah, I would probably say Aaron Jones actually the most out of those guys, then Javonte, then James Conner, then Breece Hall. But I'd like all 4 of those guys. And at cost, if we're factoring the average draft position for each of these guys, I would probably go at cost, Aaron Jones, Javonte, Breece Hall, then James Conner. I absolutely love the value you're getting with Breece Hall right now in drafts. We'll see where he goes in the draft I'm doing right now. But Javonte Williams, he's creeping up, man. He's going in the 2nd round. He was just taken by Aaron Baller in the 2nd round in this draft. I know he's in the Discord. We've seen Javonte Williams creeping up to the point where, like, I think his cost makes a lot of sense now, and you can't reach much higher than the middle of the 2nd round for Javonte Williams. There's still a pretty good chance he's in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon. But the ceiling is obviously there. Javonte Williams can be a league winner. He can be a top 5 running back in fantasy. He can be what Jonathan Taylor is if he can just get 65% of the workload. That's how talented I think Javonte Williams is. But he had about 50% of the workload last season. Melvin Gordon back again, slightly different coaching staff this year. So it's tough to predict exactly, but the ceiling is there. So I'm fine taking him in the middle of the 2nd round. I think you're drafting for the ceiling though, if you're doing that, but it's not like the floor is that bad. He finished, I think, as a top 20 running back last season. Is Eckler in a committee? No, Eckler's not in a committee. Eckler actually he set a career high last season for the number of the rush share that he had last season. Like he ran more last season as a runner than he did ever in his career. And I think they're going to continue to do that. They did draft Isaiah Spiller in the draft this year. I think that was in the third round. He does profile as an every down back, but I think Eckler is not a guy you need to be concerned about. And that's why he's getting picked so early. Look, he went 6th overall in this mock draft that we're doing. Actually, this draft does feel pretty sharp so far. Falcons WalterPicks starting with 3 straight running backs. It'll be interesting to see how this team looks at the end. But Jonathan Taylor, Zeke, Cam Akers is definitely not the worst start. Is 1,000-yard receiving still good? Yeah, of course. 1,000-yard receiving is still good. I can't download the ranking every time I try. The app closes. You definitely email us if you're having app problems. Email us. You can find. You can also join our Discord. But if you email the email sam@WalterPicks, you can let me know. What pick should I target Chubb at? Yeah, let's look where Chubb went in this mock draft. Has he been taken yet? I don't think he has. Oh, yeah, he was very early in this draft, 2.4, 4th pick of the 2nd round in the draft we're doing right now. I would probably say Nick Chubb is a better value back end of the 2nd round. Ideal picks at 2.12 and 3.1 in 12-man PPR league. Yeah, if you're watching this mock draft live, again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. I'm actually doing this draft. This is the first draft I'm doing with our League Sync functionality in the WalterPicks app that's just launched in the App Store today. And you can see, if you come to YouTube, you can see how it updates live during this draft. And so far, like it's pushed me to draft DeAndre Swift and CeeDee Lamb. I'm feeling pretty good about my first 2 picks so far. But if you come watch, like I'm drafting 12th overall in this 14-person league. So if you're drafting 12th overall, you're about to see like basically exactly what I would be doing. It's obviously very hard to tell, though. It's hard to tell who's going to be left in any given draft. Every draft is different. For example, I'm going to be in some drafts where I just know everyone in the draft is Lamar Jackson hater. There's a lot of Lamar Jackson haters out there. And if you get enough Lamar Jackson haters in one draft, Lamar's going to slide far enough for him to win your league. He has the potential to be the number 1 overall fantasy quarterback. He averages by far the most rushing yards per game in league history at the quarterback position. He's actually like 66% higher than the next guy in terms of rushing yards per game. So this is why the League Sync functionality in the WalterPicks app is so exciting, because it's going to adapt to each individual league, and every single draft is going to be different. It's going to give you custom insights on your draft, given your custom league settings. And again, I'm using this live on YouTube right now. If you want to see exactly what I'm talking about, WalterPicks on YouTube, or link is in the link tree in the TikTok bio. Yeah, Anto, I'm very excited to use this as well. All right. We're about to be back on the clock, so I got to get locked in here. Again, this is an actual pick that I have in a high-stakes league that'll be drafted later in August. I have the 12th pick in a 14-person PPR league. This is my first mock draft doing testing that. Is Saquon still a first-round pick? Saquon Barkley is a second-round pick. He's a second-round pick. And why are you drafting before preseason? This is a mock draft. So we're just practicing. But I actually have been doing tons of drafts, best ball drafts. I've done almost 300 best ball drafts already. So, but I'm also just absolutely addicted to fantasy football. So that's just me. Can Mac make some noise in Houston? I'm not able to get excited about any of the running backs on the Texans. I just can't get myself to do it. All right, we're back on the clock. We're being told to look at Elijah Mitchell, Breece Hall right now by Walter, pushing pretty hard that running back is the way I need to go, which makes sense. I do need to start 2 running backs in this league, and running backs do start to go really fast. I am actually going to go. Travis Etienne gets picked in the 3rd round by our Cardinals creator. He's been a guy that in these mock drafts I've seen so far, like he really tends to slide to the 4th round. And if that's going to happen in your home season-long PPR league, Travis Etienne's going to win leagues this season when he stays healthy. I'm going to go with Breece Hall, though, with my 3rd round pick. Because this is a PPR league, I like him a little bit more than Elijah Mitchell. I think Walter has Elijah Mitchell a little bit higher than Breece Hall. Yeah, he does. But I like Breece Hall a little bit more, the ceiling for Breece Hall a little bit more than Elijah Mitchell. They just spent a very early 2nd round pick on Breece Hall. And like, to me, he's even more locked into a receiving role than Elijah Mitchell. Like, he doesn't catch passes. So I like Breece Hall's ceiling better in PPR leagues. And I would argue, and that Walter actually agrees that the ceiling for Breece Hall is higher. Elijah Mitchell's floor. Elijah Mitchell, guys, he was 5th in the league in rushing yards per game last season. Absolutely insane. See if I can. We're about to be back on the clock. The ADP you're seeing, by the way, on the YouTube live, if you're watching with the League Sync functionality, again, very excited about this League Sync functionality. Right now, it's saying wide receiver is probably the way to go. It's pushing for DK Metcalf. I don't know how much I love DK Metcalf in a season-long league with Drew Lock at the helm. And by the way, our projections in the WalterPicks app, those will be updated daily. So the projections we're seeing right now, the rankings you're seeing right now on the YouTube live from the WalterPicks app, is not necessarily what exactly they're going to be one day before the season. In fact, they definitely won't be the same. So we'll definitely update a lot. We're back on the clock. I'm getting pushed to draft DK Metcalf by Walter. I don't know how much I love that. I do really like Darnell Mooney, but I'm pretty sure he's still pretty far away on the ADP. Yeah, he is really far down there on the ADP on Sleeper. So I'm not going to take him yet. I'm actually going to go instead. I'm not on the clock. Oh, I'm one pick ahead. Oh, no. Now my pick is going to get stacked. Geno Smith throwing the ball. Yeah, I think it's going to be Drew Lock. I'm not expecting it to be Geno Smith. I've been operating under that assumption for really the past month and a half. I would be pretty surprised if Drew Lock couldn't beat out Geno Smith. That being said, they're both bad. Like, not that it really changes that much of any of my opinions on any of the Seahawks players for fantasy. And DK Metcalf at 4.3 would be a steal. Like, I see the argument for that. But when you think about a 17-week, 16-week season-long fantasy league, how consistent is DK Metcalf going to be on a run-first offense with Drew Lock or Geno Smith throwing him the ball? It's just going to be so hard for the consistency to be there. Yeah, they're both bad. I'd rather have Evans. Yeah, Evans. I mean, Mike Evans is going in the second round. So you definitely can't choose Evans over DK Metcalf. But yeah, I definitely would. If you reach on Mooney, you're wrong. I'm happy to reach on Mooney. Elijah Mitchell gets picked one pick before me, but I'm not going to reach 3 rounds ahead of time for Mooney. I will stick close to ADP than that. I actually am going to go with Scary Terry here with the 4th pick of this team. So I've started DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Terry McLaurin in a PPR league. I don't hate this, man. This is a mock draft, by the way. This is not a real league. This is members of the people watching this live stream, members of our Discord, which you can join for free, by the way, in our link tree. But PPR league, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, all those guys are going to catch a lot of passes. I really like the case for Scary Terry this season. When you look into some of the numbers for Terry McLaurin in his career, I mean, it's pretty clear he's played with absolutely nothing at the quarterback position. And you can make the argument that's the case again this season. But I would argue pretty strongly that regardless of what you think of Carson Wentz and how bad you think he might be, that he's actually pretty clearly the best quarterback Terry McLaurin has ever played with. And for that alone, I think 4th round is a pretty reasonable cost for Scary Terry, who was number 2 in the league last year in the percentage of air yards they had for his team. Number 2 in the league. He had the 4th most air yards in the league. He had the 2nd most deep targets in the league. Like, he was getting high value targets. Just the targets were just way off target. His target accuracy ranked 79th in the NFL. 2nd in air yards. 4th in air yards, 79th in accuracy for Terry McLaurin last year. There's no way Carson Wentz is that bad. He has to be at least a little bit better than that. That was Allen Robinson's thought process last year. Yeah, I know it was Allen Robinson's thought process last year. And it is the same thought process for Allen Robinson this year too. And I still think the thought process for Allen Robinson this year makes a lot of sense, because you are getting Allen Robinson with by far the most talented quarterback that he's ever played with. And frankly, it's not even very close. High value targets that are off target. Yeah, exactly. We just need some of those high value targets to be on target, and Terry McLaurin's going to smash. Yeah, my team is stacked. I'm liking the start. Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin. I'm liking the start a lot. Again, you can watch live on YouTube. I actually think the draft board is actually not flipped on YouTube. So right now, if you're on TikTok, you're like straining because the draft board's like mirrored. But if you come to the YouTube live, the draft board is not mirrored, and you can just see it normally, and you won't have to strain. And the link to that is in the link tree, but also just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. But you can also see live on YouTube. Sorry, I've been stuck on this comparison screen. It's shouting quarterback now, it looks like. We can see so far I got McLaurin, Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Swift, and we can see who's left, but also the positional value left based on our league settings, based on the players that are still available. Right now, quarterbacks, like I said, you're going to be in drafts with guys that just hate Lamar Jackson. So funny that your picks can keep getting stream sniped. Yeah, it's super, super annoying, Ben. This is why I would only do this with, I guess that's not even true, but at least it's just a mock draft, I guess. But yeah, especially because I have Walter up on the screen, my picks are getting absolutely sniped throughout this whole draft. J.K. Dobbins going in the 4th round. Let's look at some of the teams that people are putting together so far. I do really like where Saquon Barkley went in this draft. Like in the middle of the 2nd round, in this is all about risk tolerance. A lot about how you draft in the first few rounds is about risk tolerance. And if you're like me and you have the appetite for a lot of risk, as long as the reward is there, I would argue the reward far, far, far outweighs the risk with Saquon Barkley, especially in a PPR league. It's similar to Christian McCaffrey, though Christian McCaffrey's ceiling is on a whole nother level. Both guys I'm happy to take at their cost. Middle of the 2nd round for Saquon Barkley, you can make some absolutely monster teams with him in the middle of the 2nd round in PPR leagues. But Javonte Williams, I would say, is much safer and is in a much, much better office. Why is Breece Hall so high? What about other RBs on the team? Yeah, so far, the reports out of New York for the Jets is that Breece Hall is probably going to handle about 65% of the backfield, which is how much Jonathan Taylor had last season. It is more than enough to be a running back 1 in fantasy if you are efficient enough. And Breece Hall is going to be efficient. Breece Hall was by far in the prospect model that I built the number 1 running back in this draft class. He was actually, I think, top 10 all time in my running back prospect model. He checks every single box. He's an insane athlete. He's basically a clone of Saquon Barkley, but before any of the injuries for Saquon Barkley. That is the best way, in a really quick way, to explain what Breece Hall is. That would be my best case scenario player comp athletically for Saquon Barkley. He tested like Saquon at the combine. But on top of that, he was an insanely efficient runner in college. He broke the record for the most touchdowns in a row in college with 24 straight TDs in college. He's going to be a touchdown machine, but he also is just an incredible receiver. So in PPR leagues, you absolutely love that. Michael Carter is still on the team. I think Tevin Coleman even is still on the Jets. Michael Carter is actually very good. I think he's one of the more underrated running backs in the league, but he's going to be siloed off into, I think, a 35% share of that backfield. Except the Jets didn't take a 2nd overall pick on him. Yeah, exactly. They waited to the 2nd round because we've just seen it play out so many times. Teams just aren't willing to spend 2nd overall picks on running backs anymore, partially because of Saquon Barkley. But yeah, Breece Hall probably would have went top 10 in the year that Saquon Barkley was drafted. Like they really are really close prospects. Salary draft tips. Yeah, if you're doing a salary draft league, like if you're doing the auction league, if that's what you're talking about, my biggest piece of advice is actually around the strategy about who you are like putting up for auction. Like you get to choose who's up for bid next, like once every 12 times if you're in a 12-person league. You want to promote people up for bid that you sort of think people are going to overprice for, or that you don't want, or positions you no longer need. So people start spending their money on players that you weren't going to spend a lot on. For example, like if I was up first in a auction league, probably the first player I'm going to promote is if it's like a New England league with my friends, I'll probably put up a Patriots player I know everyone likes. Or if I know I'm going to really want to spend very little on quarterback, I'm going to promote Josh Allen first overall. And that way, because when people have more money like available at the beginning of those auction drafts, they're willing to spend more. So I like promoting, like the promoting strategy of who's actually going to be up for bid. That would be my biggest piece of advice. But also with the auction draft, don't be afraid to pay up for the elite running backs. You basically can get the 101 overall pick. Like if you're just willing to pay enough, I think that's well worth the risk. So I'm willing to pay up for pretty elite prices at the running back position in auction drafts. Is the WalterPicks draft or a practice one? This is a practice one, guys. It's a practice one. Relax. You will know when the real WalterPicks draft is happening. And if you don't want to miss any of that, if you want to make sure you know who the F is Breece Hall, sell me on Hall. Yeah, I hope I just sold you, Ben, on Hall. But yeah, I will go back to Hall in a second. But yeah, you'll know when the 32-person draft is happening. It'll be all over TikTok, but also join our Discord. It's completely free, and you'll know the dates. It's actually already set. I think the date is August 29th or August 30th. It's that Sunday before September is when the 32-person draft will happen. I should probably make an event about that. Hot Dog Cuties team is stacked. Let's see what Hot Dog Cuties team is looking like. All right. Yeah, I do like that team. If Alvin Kamara plays, though, I don't know if Alvin Kamara's playing. I also don't really love taking George Kittle in the 3rd round. I would much prefer where Kyle Pitts went in the second round. If I don't get Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, I'll probably wait on tight end until Dalton Schultz. And if I don't get Dalton Schultz, I'll probably wait even longer. Breece's Pieces. That is an absolutely money name. I'm absolutely stealing that, Jacob. I hope you don't mind me stealing that name. Breece's Pieces. Now I want to draft Breece Hall even more. But just, if you aren't sold on Breece Hall enough, guys, Breece Hall is by far the most athletic running back in this draft class. He's 21 years old. He is a 99th percentile athlete, 97th percentile 40-yard dash, 98th percentile speed score. He's 5'11", 220 pounds, and he runs a 4.3940. But he's also extremely, extremely shifty side to side. He's a 94th percentile burst score from the combine as well. Like, think about rookie Saquon Barkley. That's what Breece Hall can be. And rookie Saquon Barkley was a top 5 running back in fantasy football. We have a ceiling. Walter has a ceiling at running back 7 overall. That's a pretty high ceiling for a guy you're getting in the 3rd round. But I would argue his floor is actually pretty high also. We have his floor a little bit lower because he is a rookie. But of all the rookies, I mean, his floor is definitely the safest. And he was also the first running back taken in this draft. Do you know any leagues to join? Yeah, if you're looking for leagues, you just join our Discord. There's leagues. It's really happening all the time in there. Link is in the link tree for that. But also, if you are looking to draft right away, I mean, to go check out Underdog Fantasy and do a best ball draft. It's probably the best way to see like real-time ADP. A.J. Dillon going in the 4th round. I mean, come on. This is a little bit too early. It's a little bit too early for A.J. Dillon. In a 14-person league, though, I guess this is round 4. How many teams can I sync? Ben, you can sync as many teams as you want to sync. This is a premium feature in the app, though. I do want to call that out. This is not a free feature. The sync feature will be a premium feature, though almost every other thing in the app will be free this season. But there is no limit to the number of teams that I can sync. I'll probably walk through it a little bit at the end of this live. Yeah, my team is stacked. I mean, this is what's going to happen with League Sync, though. Like, you're just going to draft absolute monster teams when we just have such an advantage when we have League Sync telling us what positions have the most value left in this draft. Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray are still kicking around. Lamar Jackson, by the way, I mean, it looks like our Falcons creator is just not going to draft a receiver in this draft, which I don't think is a very good idea, but I do like where he got Lamar. If you're getting Lamar Jackson in the 5th round, a 14-person league, I'm taking Lamar in the 5th round of 12-people league. So, I mean, this is an absolute steal. Like, look where the other quarterbacks went, a full 2 rounds. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, a full 2 rounds before Lamar Jackson. Though I do still think, 4 running backs and a quarterback is pretty bold. I also don't really love taking Clyde in the 4th round. Like, I think that's still a little early. And I'm one of the more bullish Clyde Edwards-Helaire people. I think he's one of my highest drafted running backs in best ball, but I've been getting him in best ball like round 7, round 8, which I think his risk is more baked into his cost in those rounds. Arjun Ball, this is a premium feature in the WalterPicks app. Doing a draft stipulation series, and the stipulation for this draft was starting with 4 running backs. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense then, Andrew. Good luck with that. It's the 28th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For those of you that want to jot this down, the 32-person draft is already scheduled. It's August 28th. It's going to be 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We will make it what you will know when the 32-person draft is starting. We're determining the draft order in a couple of weeks at the Fantasy Football Expo. Would you draft Saquon at the 210? Yeah, I would. I would definitely take him at 210. He was taken in this mock draft 2.6, like 2nd round, 6th pick. Yeah, I would definitely take him. Back into the 2nd round, I'm in on Saquon. I'm willing to eat the risk with Saquon because the reward is there. It's a similar risk-reward ratio as Christian McCaffrey, though the reward is lower and the risk is a little higher, but the cost is less. The cost to acquire Saquon Barkley is less. And I'm telling you guys, there's going to be leagues because people draft so scared with past injuries. There's going to be leagues where someone is able to get both Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. And in those leagues, I mean, just watch out. Etienne or Hall. Yeah, I think I trust Travis Etienne a little bit more than Breece Hall. I do. He was a better receiver in college than Breece Hall, and he also played with Trevor Lawrence. And I also am very bullish in general on the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars offense will throw a lot more than the Jets offense this season. And so for all those reasons, and on top of that too, Breece Hall just has a lot more target competition than Travis Etienne. It's Christian Kirk, and then it could be Travis Etienne, number 2 in targets on the Jaguars. Like, he has the potential to legitimately come close to 1,000 receiving yards. I don't think Breece Hall has that potential, though I do think Breece Hall is a better runner than Travis Etienne, if that makes sense. On a worse team, though, or at least similarly bad offense. So I would take Etienne just slightly ahead of Breece Hall, and he did just go slightly ahead of me taking Breece Hall in this mock draft that I'm doing live right now. You can see I got Breece Hall in the third round of this PPR draft, but I want both guys. Honestly, I'm in on both guys. I'm ahead of ADP on both guys pretty consistently. All right, I'm back on the clock. Walter's telling me to go wide receiver again. Darnell Mooney is just got sniped, absolutely sniped from me, and it's pushing me to take a quarterback now. So I'll probably wait till my next pick though for QB. Let's take a look who the top receivers are. Yeah, I do feel pretty good about Rashad Bateman in this spot. I also do feel pretty good about Michael Thomas pretty soon also. I honestly might go 2 receivers here, but I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman first. I do really like Rashad Bateman. End of the 5th round, 14 person league. Like, I think Rashad Bateman's probably going to be taken in 12 team leagues, like round 6, round 7. And this is why I'm okay. MT just hit the pup. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. Of course, Michael Thomas gets picked 1 pick after me. But Rashad Bateman, this is why I think it makes sense to go at least 2 running backs in your first 3 picks, because you're getting number 1 wide receivers on with very little competition in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Rashad Bateman, don't draft Baltimore Raven wide receivers. I get that. I get that take. But at the same time, guys, Hollywood Brown was good last season. Like, he was much better than I think people realize in fantasy. He wasn't incredibly consistent, and you can't always bank on a ton of consistency from the Ravens receivers. Like, he's not going to have the type of consistency that, say, Terry McLaurin has. But at the same time, Marquise Brown was top 22. I think he finished 21st I'm in the draft behind me. This is the draft's happening on the TV behind me. Also, you can watch live on YouTube if you want to not see it mirrored. I'll work on fixing that in the future. But yeah, I am in this live. This is a mock draft that I'm in live. And also on YouTube, if you come to the YouTube live, you can see our new League Sync functionality in the WalterPicks app that we literally just launched today, which I'm very excited about. All that being said, Rashad Bateman is going to be top 25 wide receiver in fantasy points per game this season if he stays healthy. Like, with no Marquise Brown was 9th in targets last year. Like, so you would argue, oh, they're a run first team, there's no targets to go around. Well, Marquise Brown averaged 9 targets a game last year, and he's gone. And Rashad Bateman is extremely talented. He really did show a lot of good signs as a rookie, and he missed the beginning part of his rookie season too. So I think he could have been even better as a rookie than he was. And we do see elite receivers tend to make big leaps in year 2, not year 3. It's actually year 2 that you see the big leaps from the most elite receivers. And so watch out for Jamar Chase, obviously, for that reason as well. All right, we're back on the clock. We are getting pushed to draft Brady in the WalterPicks at 23.9 points per game he's projected for, which I think might be a tiny bit high. We might have to adjust that just a little bit, but he did lead the league in passing yards last season, so it's not awful. I'm actually going to go running back though instead here, and I'm going to snag Tony Pollard well ahead of ADP. But if you look at where AJ Dillon got drafted, and that was the back end of the 4th round, I get Tony Pollard in the beginning of the 6th round. Tony Pollard has asymmetrical upside. The upside for Tony Pollard is you win your entire league, similar to AJ Dillon. Like, I actually think they're in pretty similar spots. They're much different players, obviously, but they're in pretty similar spots. They're not the number 1 running back on their team, but they will have a good enough role to be a running back 3 consistently in fantasy football. AJ Dillon's probably going to get at least half of the carries in Green Bay. He also showed he can be a pretty productive receiver. Tony Pollard, I think, is going to get more targets per game than Zeke this season, and I think he's going to get at least a third of the carries in a good offense. And then if Zeke goes down, Tony Pollard is a top 10 running back in fantasy football. So I like going for the upside there. And also, I just know by the time my next pick comes around, the running back options are going to be so bleak. And I don't want to I don't want to end a draft with only 2 running backs on my team. So I didn't listen to Walter on this one. And I did go with Tony Pollard. I have a feeling Tom Brady might still be there too with my next pick. Receivers are starting to go off the board. Now, I don't hate the DeAndre Hopkins pick. It's going to be really interesting to see where DeAndre Hopkins goes in your traditional season-long league. Ideally, for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, you don't have to draft him to be a starter on your team because he's going to be out the first 6 weeks of the season. But he has top 12 wide receiver upside throughout the remainder of the season and in the fantasy playoffs when it really counts. They also have some pretty good matchups in the fantasy playoffs as well. So I think it's pretty interesting to be taking DeAndre Hopkins in these season-long leagues, but it really depends on the roster composition you have already and whether or not you think you can survive 6 weeks without DeAndre Hopkins. Cheeseburger Lenny opinion. Yeah, it's not good that Leonard Fournette is weighing 260 pounds or something close to 260 pounds at the moment. But I'm not that worried about it, to be honest. I'm not that worried about it. I think Lenny has plenty of time to get healthy. My main man, Sam, how's it going? Yo, what's going on, man? I've been seeing the content. Keep up the good work. How do you feel about CMC and Keeper Dynasty Leagues? A1 Fantasy Sports, man. Keep up the good work. In Dynasty Leagues, Keeper Leagues, keep him. In Dynasty Leagues, it's definitely getting to the point, and this happens so fast with running backs in Dynasty, it's getting to the point where you got to be careful holding on to him for too long. But at the same time, if you're trying to win now, there's no better player to have on your team than a healthy Christian McCaffrey. That's just the bottom line. So if you're in a win now position in Dynasty, then hold on to McCaffrey for at least another year. But if you aren't, then ship him off. First overall pick, who do you go with? I still have JT 1 overall just because I think he is the safest bet. But I think you have to be considering McCaffrey at 1 overall also, and I'm going McCaffrey at 2 overall every single time. So I think it's close. I honestly think in some of my drafts, if I do get the 1 overall pick, I will take CMC just to prove a point. But Christian McCaffrey, the thing you need to understand, I understand he's injury prone, and we all think we know Christian McCaffrey is going to get hurt this season, and people said that exact same thing about Joe Mixon last year. Everyone knew Joe Mixon was going to get hurt. But guess what? You don't know who's going to get hurt. Are some guys at higher risk of injury than others? Yes. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is at a higher risk of injury than Jonathan Taylor. How much higher is that risk, though? We're actually not very good at predicting that, historically speaking. And Joe Mixon's a great example from last season. So is there risk for CMC? Yeah, of course. There's some risk for injury for CMC. He's a smaller guy. He's had tons of injuries in the past couple of years. But actually, before his injury spurt really started, he actually didn't miss a game in college. He played 16 games all of his first, 3 seasons. Which is also pretty rare to see out of running backs. Because, by the way, most running backs get hurt. Over 80% of week 1 starting running backs will miss multiple games over the last few years. So it's not surprising when running backs get hurt. They play arguably the most injury-prone position in all of sports. And then really the thing you need to understand about CMC and why I think he needs to be taken 2nd overall in every single draft, and I probably will take him 1st overall in a draft if I do get one of the 1st overall picks in any of my high-stakes leagues. The ceiling for CMC is higher than every other player in fantasy football. He scores points differently than every other running back. He's basically a wide receiver playing running back. He was a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football without his rushing stats in his best season. He had the most fantasy points per game in the history of fantasy football when you remove touchdowns from the equation. What Christian McCaffrey does is he scores 20 plus points every single week in PPR leagues without scoring touchdowns. He averaged 22 fantasy points per game without touchdowns in his best season, which was the 2nd best fantasy season of all time because he catches so many passes. He's the only running back in the history of the league with multiple 100 reception seasons. There's really no other running back in the NFL this season that has a chance to get 100 catches, not named Christian McCaffrey. You don't see it in the NFL. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey, 2nd overall. He's not overrated. He simply isn't. He had the 2nd best season of all time. You can maybe argue he's overrated in fantasy. In real football, but not in fantasy. I am taking JT though over Christian McCaffrey. I do think he is safer, but he's by no means foolproof either. And he also he doesn't get the type of reception volume that you like to see in PPR leagues. All that being said, I'm not trying to knock JT. I do like JT as well. All right, we are working through this mock draft right now. Let's take a look. I want to see Sam's team again. I think he just picked. He finally took some receivers. He took Gabe Davis, who was the best player available based on ADP. And honestly, this is the latest I've seen Gabe Davis go in a draft that I've done literally in the past 3 months because he's getting drafted so early on Underdog and in the best ball drafts I've been doing. But I'm not in on Gabriel Davis, but I do think where you got him is pretty fair. And then you got Drake London as wide receiver 2. Let's see. I'm kind of surprised you didn't go Russell Gage. We still have Russell Gage Atlanta. We got to fix that. But I think Russell Gage out of the gates I expect Russell Gage to outscore Gabriel Davis and Drake London on a per game basis. I haven't taken a tight end yet either. So I'll probably just completely punt the position in this mock draft. Sam, what's the best way for me to contact you? If you go into the WalterPicks app, there's an email in the hamburger menu. You can use that. Also, Sam at WalterPicks is my main email. You can email me at. What do you think best spot to draft with is? Yeah, I get this question all the time. Like, what's the best spot to draft in? It's going to be different depending on the league that you're in and who goes where. I personally like the second overall pick a decent amount because I want Christian McCaffrey on as many teams as I can have him on. But I also really like the middle of the draft this year. Like you're going to be able to get, if you look at the middle of the draft, you're going to be able to get, I've seen Derrick Henry slide pretty far. I don't think he'll slide very far in traditional season-long leagues. But I'm down for Cooper Kupp. I'm down for Justin Jefferson in fourth or fifth pick. If someone takes Derrick Henry before them, I would prefer them over Derrick Henry in a PPR league. I'm also in on Austin Eckler, and I really do like Dalvin Cook as well. He went 10th overall in this draft. I think that's way too late in a PPR league, and obviously Jamar Chase too. Like one of those guys is going to end up falling to you if you have like the 7th overall pick, and then on the turn in the second round, someone like Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams is going to be there. Even Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, like these guys are going to fall. Aaron Jones in the second round. So I do like the middle of the draft also. But really, like I have the mentality in all of my drafts. I don't care where I'm picking from. I'm going to dominate the draft because there's optimal strategies from every single spot. There's good players no matter where you're picking from. And we never actually know what pick is the best until we look back at the end of the year and we see which guys got hurt. Is McCaffrey and Lamb good for pick number 2? Yeah, absolutely money. Like if you can get McCaffrey and CeeDee Lamb and you're picking second overall, you're going to have the best team in the league heading into the season. Obviously, you got to hope they can both stay healthy, but CeeDee Lamb is one of the safest players in all of fantasy. I have the 12th in 12-man. What can I do? Yeah, so this mock draft I'm doing behind me right now, I have the 12th pick in this draft, and this is what I've done. This is a 14-team league, so probably you should actually be able to do a little bit better than this in a 12-person league. I started with DeAndre Swift, 12th overall. I think that's like probably the earliest I'd be willing to take DeAndre Swift, but I feel actually pretty good about him at 12 overall. Now looking back through this draft, I took CeeDee Lamb in the second round with the third pick in the second round. Really like getting him in the second round too if you're picking 12 overall. Starting this on the turn though, like if you're in a 12-person league, DeAndre Swift, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Swift, Devontae Adams, or even taking 2 of these receivers, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb. Just make sure you're getting 2 running backs in the next 2 picks if you do that. I followed up with McLaurin, Rashad Bateman, Tony Pollard. I reached a little bit on Tony Pollard, but I also know I won't be taking many of these late round running backs. I think there's a pretty steep cliff in running backs. Like you look at the running backs left now, we're looking at James Cook, who I do think has really, really high ceiling, but who knows what his floor is. He's the rookie for the Bills. Melvin Gordon, he's, at best in like a 40% timeshare with Javonte Williams. Ramondre Stevenson, similar type of situation. Like we're really looking at handcuffs at this point, and we're only in round 7. And this is why you got to take 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, in my opinion. Stacking Hill and Waddle, thoughts? I don't hate it. I would probably not do that in a season-long league, though. I would prefer to just go with one of them. In a best ball league, I think I like it a little bit more. Our Dolphins grader, though, definitely will disagree with me on that. But I actually saw, I think, one of Tyler's recent videos, our Dolphins grader, he was saying don't draft Tyreek Hill and just wait for Jalen Waddle. I sort of agree with that take. With how early Tyreek Hill is going, early second round, Jalen Waddle's going, 4th round. They might see similar target volume this season. Tyreek Hill will probably be a little bit more efficient than Jalen Waddle, but at cost, I think I do actually like Jalen Waddle a little bit more than Tyreek Hill. The London pick was mainly the idea that I could be getting a 1. Yeah, exactly. That's fair. Then that makes sense. Julian Manager, how's it going, man? Is Bryce Hall the real deal? Bryce Hall is not the real deal. Breece Hall is the real deal, though. I don't know who Bryce Hall is, but Breece Hall is the real deal. Yeah, he is. Like, just from a purely talent perspective, he is the real deal. Like, absolutely is. All right, we're back on the clock. Tom Brady is still there. Dak Prescott is still there. So I made the right decision going Tony Pollard. You love me, don't lie. I made the right decision going Tony Pollard last time because the same quarterbacks I was thinking of before are still there. So I will go with Brady in the 7th round of this draft. I was one of the last teams to get a quarterback. I still got Tom Brady, who literally led the league in passing yards last season. I do like trying to get a rushing quarterback. I will, like, the fact that Trey Lance still hasn't been picked too gives me even more optimism that in these season-long leagues, I'll probably wait really long on QB unless I'm in a Lamar Jackson hater league and I can get Lamar like in round 5. But you're still getting elite quarterback play like in round 8, round 9, round 10. So use your early picks on running backs and receivers, or maybe an elite tight end as well. I still haven't taken a tight end in this draft. I probably will relatively soon. I do like Russell Gage a lot too. Where did Michael Thomas get picked? Yeah, he got picked one pick after me, right? Because I was talking about him. But yeah, Michael Thomas is a guy I wanted to talk about on this live as well, because he did get put on the PUP list for training camp. But that doesn't actually really mean that much. It doesn't mean that much that he's on the PUP list for training camp. He can come off at any time. He literally could come off today. And training camp hasn't like officially even started yet. So there's still we still don't know, really, is my point. I'm not saying it's a good thing that he's on the PUP list. It's definitely not a good thing, but we don't actually know it's a bad thing yet either. And all the reports have actually been really positive about Michael Thomas recently. So I'm actually buying the dip a little bit on Michael Thomas right now. And we'll see where it shakes out. But I just need to see Michael Thomas. I just need to see him practice. How many of the WalterPicks creators are actually fans of their team? 49ers creators, a Saints fan. I think probably 10 out of the 32 creators aren't a fan of their team. So probably most are a fan of the team. But the 10 that aren't a fan of their team are diehard just football fans in general. So they make up for it in other ways. All right, we're back on the clock. I am being told to draft Robert Woods. I'm really glad that's what Walter's saying right now, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. Robert Woods is going to be almost definitely the wide receiver 1, week 1 for the Tennessee Titans that no longer have A.J. Brown. The last time we saw Robert Woods before he got injured last season, he was a pretty good player in fantasy football. I feel like there's a sour taste in everyone's mouth about Robert Woods because he was drafted before Cooper Kupp in almost every fantasy league, and so he sort of automatically didn't hit expectation. But he actually averaged 15.2 fantasy points per game last season, which would have ranked top 20 in the league. And he's in a worse offense, run-first offense now, but I do like Robert Woods. We have him projected for under 15.2 fantasy points per game, which was what he had last season. We have him projected for 13.8 in the WalterPicks app. But yeah, I do like Robert Woods a decent amount. Christian Kirk is another guy that I do like a lot too. All right, let me fix this behind me. Christian Kirk did go a few picks after. We're in the 8th round now. How many rounds? We got 15 rounds. We're about halfway through. Yeah, we're in round 8. If you can see it behind me, it is going live on this TV behind me. I know it's mirrored if you're watching live on TikTok. You can come to the YouTube live, though. Link is in the link tree, and it won't be mirrored, and you can still follow along. You can also see league sync functionality in the WalterPicks app. Have you considered adding engineers or data analysts? Yeah, we have engineers. We have a team of 5 engineers, ranging from full stack engineers, back-end, front-end engineers. We also do have data analysts on the team. So yes, we are doing literally everything we possibly can to continue to have the best and most accurate projections in the fantasy space. That is our mission with the WalterPicks app. Is Najee at 4 a reach? I think it's a little bit of a reach, but there is a pretty good argument. I think there's a pretty good argument that Najee is the safest running back in all of fantasy because he led the league in touches last season. And this is the most predictive thing of fantasy points, just how much you're touching the ball. And so, yeah, he is. Jake's right. Like, if you are looking for safety, if you want to draft safe, if you want to draft terrified that your first round pick is going to bust, then just draft Najee Harris because he's likely going to be top 3 in touches again this season at the running back position. And he's also really young and doesn't have a bad injury history. So, like, everything sort of aligns for Najee to be safe. But I also I don't draft with that mentality in the first round. I don't draft scared. I draft to win my league. And so that's why I would definitely prefer CMC and Jonathan Taylor over him. I would prefer Dalvin Cook over him. I would prefer Derrick Henry over him and Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson over him as well. And I would even make an argument for Austin Eckler also. And I think the main reason, I think the main reason for that is I just don't think the Steelers offense is going to be anywhere close to those other offenses that I just referenced. You don't draft safe in the first round. You draft someone that will win your league, in my opinion. Yeah, that's my mentality. Some other people have the opposite mentality, though. Some people think you can only lose your league in the first round. I disagree with that. But yeah, I would prefer Dalvin Cook. I would prefer Derrick Henry. I would prefer Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp. I think all over Najee Harris. But I won't be shocked when Najee Harris finishes the top 5 fantasy football running back and is just putting up a steady 15, 20 points every single week. Thoughts on Javonte Williams and which round should I grab him? Yeah, he's been creeping up, man. He's been creeping up drafts, and for good reason. He was an extremely talented rookie. Like, he is comparable in terms of his efficiency. He's comparable to guys like Jonathan Taylor. That's how efficient he was, but he did it on less touches. And obviously, the touches are the big question for Javonte Williams, who split most of the work with Melvin Gordon last season. He had about 50% of the touches in that backfield last year. There's a new coaching staff this year, though. So that makes things pretty intriguing. I think at worst case scenario for Javonte Williams is similar to what he was last year, like close to 12 fantasy points per game. He's splitting work with Melvin Gordon, and he's going to get picked too early if that's his worst case scenario. But like, he still has an okay floor, and he also has no injury history, and like will probably stay fresh if he is splitting the work. Best case scenario, though, is he gets like a 65% share of that backfield, close to what Jonathan Taylor had, and he wins you your fantasy league. So middle of the second round, back end of the second round is when I would start considering Javonte Williams. He went, I think, a little bit earlier than that in this mock draft than I'm doing right now. Team recap. Yeah, so really quickly, the team I have so far, if I show you, if you can see on the screen behind me how I started, I went DeAndre Swift with the 12th overall pick. This is a 14-person PPR league. I went DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall, Terry McLaurin, Rashad Bateman, Tony Pollard, Tom Brady, Robert Woods. Feeling really strong about the 4 receivers that I have and the 3 running backs. I still haven't taken a tight end. I'm completely punting the tight end position in this draft. So we'll see how that turns out later in the draft. Let's see what Walter's suggesting at this point too, because it is suggesting tight end. So we're in round 9, and Walter's finally suggesting us a tight end. What I mean by that, if you come to the YouTube live, we are synced in the YouTube live to this draft in the WalterPicks app. There's a new feature in the WalterPicks app for our premium users where you can literally sync your league to our app, ESPN, Yahoo, or Sleeper, in live during your draft. You're going to get live custom insights throughout your entire draft. And you're not going to manually enter anything. It's just going to automatically know which players were picked, what your league settings are, and who you should be targeting and what positions you should be thinking about with your next picks. It's going to give you all the information. When is a good time to draft? The best time to draft is the closest you can get to the season actually starting. This is the best time to draft. So I would say starting like August 28th, August 29th, I think that's around the end of the preseason. That's the best time to start drafting. You got like a week and a half, 2-week window there. And preseason's over. You've probably avoided like all the injuries that are going to happen in the preseason, because there always is injuries during training camp and preseason. Having J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Cam Akers last year, it's going to happen again. Yeah, Labor Day this year is like right before the season. It's like that Labor Day Monday, and then there's football on Thursday. It's going to be absolutely money schedule this year. So Labor Day is probably going to be like the peak draft day. Should I trade back from 4 if I want Najee? If so, to what spot? You're definitely playing with fire, like trying to assume where Najee's going to end up going. It's going to be all over the place in drafts, but I would be pretty confident he'll be there like pick 6, pick 7. So yeah, if you could trade back to like 6, 7, Carter, I would probably do that. I can't wait to wake up Sunday morning and watch your live streams before the games. Costello, thanks, man. I can't wait to wake up Sunday morning and do the live streams before the game. So we're on the same page, man. Damian Harris or TJ Hawkinson in underdog? Yeah, I would lean Damian Harris, honestly, over Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson is one of the players that I've faded the most so far this offseason, and he's one of the guys that could definitely end up crushing me if he ends up performing well. But I think like the case for TJ Hawkinson this year is pretty tough based on how he did last year, even with like a lot of guys injured. Of course, Pat Frymuth gets snagged 1 pick before me. I'm actually going to go with Irv Smith over Albert O. We do have Albert O a little bit higher in our projections. But I'm going to go with Irv Smith instead, because I just like I like betting on the year 3 tight end in Irv Smith. Is he year two or year 3? But all the reports out of Irv Smith have been, yeah, he is heading into year 3. And the year 3 is the year tight ends tend to break out the most. I do think that his ADP is actually much higher than Albert O 2 on underdog. We'll probably update the Irv Smith projection in the WalterPicks app sometime soon. But yeah, Hawkinson is a guy that like there's just so much competition for targets all of a sudden in Detroit between once Jameson Williams comes back, DJ Chark was added to the team this offseason. Obviously, Among Us St. Brown is going to continue to be a big part of the offense, and DeAndre Swift is back and healthy. And Jared Goff is still sort of an uninspiring quarterback. So I don't love TJ Hawkinson at all in fantasy. He's a guy that I probably won't draft a single time this offseason. He probably will end up being on the do not draft list. And he's a guy that I loved heading into last season, and he just never capitalized on the opportunity. Also, can you do a video on auction drafts? Yeah, I'm going to do a video on auction drafts. I mentioned it earlier in this live too. Two of the things that I feel pretty strongly about in auction drafts. One, you want to promote and get people bidding on players you don't want. So like if I'm up first and you get to choose who's going to be available, like to start bidding on, I'm going to probably promote Josh Allen first because I don't want to be the guy that spends the most money on a quarterback. And like the reason you want to do that early is everyone has the most money at the beginning of the auction draft, right? So promoting guys you don't want early means they're probably going to get a little bit more money spent on them. The other thing I'll say in the auction drafts, spend up for the elite running backs. Don't be afraid to spend up for the elite running backs. I like in an auction draft, you can walk away with like 3 first-round running backs or like 2 first-round running backs. And if you can do that, I think it's a huge advantage because in no season-long league would in any way could you like trade up to get 2 first-round picks without completely destroying your draft. In auction drafts, it is possible to get 2 absolute stud running backs and still like get regards from Ecuador. Wow, that's pretty cool. You can still build a really solid team around the elite 2 running backs in auction leagues. All right, we're going to be back on the clock very soon. We have finally filled out the starting lineup. Let's see what Walter's thinking now that we have drafted a tight end. I bet it's not recommending tight end. Saying quarterback again. That's interesting. Derek Carr is still there though. I mean, geez, look how late. Like why is anyone going to draft QBs early when you can just get Tom Brady and Derek Carr with your 7th and 10th round picks? And it makes no sense. There's definitely a very, very strong case for waiting on quarterbacks yet again this season. Thoughts on Jalen Hurts? Yeah, we have Jalen Hurts in the WalterPicks app. Walter has him projected at the 4th overall quarterback. He was 5th in fantasy points per game last year. He just added A.J. Brown. I think 5th overall is a very reasonable outcome, again, for him in terms of fantasy points per game with his rushing ability and with A.J. Brown on the squad too. And Jalen Hurts also has still, regardless of A.J. Brown, like just a ton of room to grow as a passer. So I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I still don't have a QB in this draft. Why'd you snipe Carr, man? Sorry about that, Aiden. But yeah, I mean, between Brady and Derek Carr, like I feel pretty good about how my quarterback room shaped up. I do not think this is how my high stakes draft will go, but I do think like you got to have the mentality in your drafts. Don't be afraid to wait on quarterback and don't be afraid to wait on tight end because these are these 1Z positions that you can either fill on the waiver wire throughout the season or like guys will just end up sliding way too far because people are drafting their starting lineup and then drafting bench players and very rarely drafting 2 or quarterbacks at 2 tight ends early. Like the 13th quarterback, 13th tight end is actually still pretty solid. And you can get better running backs and receivers early in the draft. Thoughts on Cole Kmet? Suspect wide receivers in Chicago. Yeah, it's totally suspect wide receivers in Chicago. So yeah, I do like Cole Kmet. He went in the 9th round of this draft. I like him as a late round tight end. I definitely would not reach for Cole Kmet. I don't think he has the ability to really like be the reason your team wins a fantasy football championship, but I do think he's better than where he's getting drafted at, especially in PPR leagues. Like he could get close to 7 targets a game, and that would be a lot for tight ends. Thoughts on the case for taking Dalvin early and making sure you get Madison? Yeah, I like Madison regardless of if you get Dalvin Cook. I'm not a big handcuff guy. I'll probably make a video about this soon. I don't think handcuffing is optimal drafting strategy. I think you should just draft the best backups. Like just draft the best handcuffs regardless of the running backs you have. I don't like constructing my team in preparation for my best player to get injured. But I do like drafting Alexander Madison just period because Alexander Madison is one of the best backups in the league, and he's going to have standalone PPR value in that offense even before a Dalvin Cook injury. Like he's sort of like A.J. Dillon, Tony Pollard light, in my opinion. You're getting him way later, but he's a similar talent, and he is similarly going to have value without an injury. So like I just draft the most talented backups. Don't draft just because they're your handcuff. But yeah, like if you do get Dalvin Cook, because I do like Alexander Madison so much, I'm fine with you handcuffing him. Like 9th round, Alexander Madison is fine. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. And you just lock down a pretty valuable role, like in a very good, what should be a very good offense this season. So I do think the Vikings are going to pass more this year too, which is exciting, I think, for the running backs. What do you care about with kickers? I'm glad you asked this, man, because I fought very hard to keep kickers and defenses out of the WalterPicks app draft tool because I don't care about kickers and I don't care about defenses. Every second I spend thinking about kickers and thinking about defenses is seconds that I will never get back. in my life. And that's how I feel about kickers and defenses. So I really I have not thought about them at all. I probably will think about them like right before my draft. And generally, I'm only drafting defenses based on their week 1 matchup because we are horrible at predicting which defenses are going to be the best in fantasy. We actually, in the past 5 years, the first defense in terms of average draft position that's been taken in fantasy has not ended up being the number 1 defense in fantasy because its turnovers are so hard to predict. But on top of that, with kickers, like just draft the kickers on the best offenses. They're going to score the most points. I want the kickers on the Chiefs and the Cowboys and all the elite offenses, the Bills. Like I want just elite offenses. Also, I want Young Hoku on the Falcons too. So I'm not a Young Waku, I think his name is. But yeah, I'm not talking anymore about defenses or kickers, but I will think about them like right before my draft. I'm also never going to spend a pick that isn't my last 2 picks on kickers or defenses. And actually, if I draft early enough, like if I were doing a real high stakes draft right now, I wouldn't draft a kicker or a defense. I'd probably draft 2 high upside running backs at the end of my draft just to wait and see what happens in the preseason and training camp before then going and adding a kicker and a defense. I have the 7th pick. Do you think Justin Jefferson will still be there at the spot? No, I don't think so. But if he is, you should definitely take him. In this draft that we're doing now, he went 5th overall. I don't think I've seen him slide to 7 in maybe 1 of the 300 drafts I've done so far this offseason. But it is possible if you're in a league where people really, really, really want running backs, it is possible he'll slide. But he's probably going to be a top 5 pick in most leagues. Keep Jefferson in the 2nd or Swift in the 3rd by 12 guy. That's a very hard choice, man. Like Jefferson's obviously going before Swift in every draft. I think I would probably go with Justin Jefferson personally, but Swift in the 3rd is an absolute snag as well. So I think you're choosing the best of 2 really good options. I don't think you can go wrong either way, but Jefferson's just so much safer than Swift from an injury perspective, just because their positions. So I don't think you go wrong with Jefferson in the 2nd. Whereas ETN been getting drafted, yeah, I really hope he doesn't start creeping up in the draft boards because I want him so bad in every PPR league. In the mock draft we just did, or we're doing right now, he got picked in the 3rd round, end of the 3rd round. I'd be more than happy taking him in the end of the 3rd round. I took Breece Hall 2 picks after him as well. But I think ideally, if you can get Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, round 3, round 4, I'm pumped. I'm pumped with that. 12-man happy PR. What is a better draft position, 4 or 9? Oh, that's really tough call. It depends how you want to try to construct that team. I think if you are comfortable taking receivers early, then go with 4, grab Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson. And if those guys are picked before then you're either getting Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. Those are my top 4, in my opinion, pretty clearly. It's JT, CMC, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson. You're going to get one of those 4 guys if you're a top 4 pick, and that's pretty good. If you don't want to go receiver, though, early, then I would probably go with 9 and look for Najee Harris later in the 1st round, looking for Dalvin Cook later in the 1st round. In a dynasty league, is Hopkins worth holding on to? It depends what you can get for him, man. It all depends what you would be able to get for him. But I think he probably is. You're probably not going to be able to get very much. And I do think he has the potential to be a top 12 fantasy wide receiver once he returns from his suspension. Can you post this draft results? Yeah, I will. And actually, if you join our Discord, the link is in a link tree. You can actually just go straight to this draft and watch it in the Sleeper app. So if you go join our Discord, you can get that as well. Where do you feel comfortable drafting Alvin Kamara? Yeah, good question. I'm getting more comfortable with him in the 2nd round, 3rd round, but he would be a 1st round pick if it wasn't for the suspension concerns. And so this is like a very gray area where you're sort of guessing, is he going to get suspended or is he not? Right now, I don't think he is going to get suspended this season, but there is a video out there that the public has not seen of Alvin Kamara attacking someone. And this is what he's in these legal proceedings for. And if that gets out, he's going to get suspended. And so we just don't know if that's gonna happen. So I'm pretty nervous about him, but I think it's actually going to be a suspension next year for Alvin Kamara. The Discord's in the link tree, by the way. Someone asked in the TikTok live, is there any new features in the WalterPicks app this season? Come to the YouTube live, man. Come to the YouTube live. You can literally see our most recent and biggest feature release of the year on the YouTube live. We have implemented league sync functionality throughout the WalterPicks app. It's starting with just the draft tool, but in season, you'll be able to sync your leagues to the start sit tool and to the trade analyzer as well. And so this is going to give custom to your league settings, custom to who is on your team, custom to who has been drafted live in your draft. It's going to give live updates without you manually entering anything with ESPN, Yahoo, and Sleeper Leagues. So there's a really, really exciting functionality for the WalterPicks app this season. I think it's going to really, really be exciting. And I'm doing it live in this mock draft right now. And I've put together an absolute monster squad in this mock draft. So I'm feeling pretty good in my first League Sync live stream mock draft. One more catch though, keep Jefferson in second, Swift third. Yeah, definitely not Metcalf in the second. I mean, in the seventh, definitely not. When does NFL training camp end? Preseason ends August 28th or August 29th. So like the whole month of August, training camp preseason. Once September comes around, that's like peak fantasy draft season. Love the Tim Patrick pick. Where did Tim Patrick go? Let's see. Yeah, I do like these picks. I don't love the DJ Chark pick nearly as much as these other two, but Chase Claypool, one of my bold predictions. I'm doing one bold prediction for each NFL team. Been making some videos about that. My bold prediction for the Steelers is that Chase Claypool averages more fantasy points per game than Deontay Johnson this season. And it's definitely bold because Deontay Johnson's been a baller in fantasy for each of the last 3 seasons. He's been the top receiver for the Steelers. But we have a shifting of the guard in Pittsburgh this year. I think there's a decent chance Chase Claypool ends up being the favorite for Mitch Trubisky or for Kenny Pickett, whoever ends up snagging the starting role in that offense. I think it's going to be Mitch Trubisky, though, to start the season and for most of the season. How are we feeling about Zeke this year? Yeah, I mean, it's all the risk is priced in, it feels like, with Zeke. He's going in the draft we're doing right now. He went actually at the very end of the second round. I think that's like a little bit early for me. I don't think I would take him there. I know Andrew wanted to go start this draft with 4 straight running backs for some reason, but I would prefer T. Higgins over Zeke by like a lot. I would definitely prefer Keenan Allen over him as well early in the draft. I even would rank Travis Etienne over Zeke and Breece Hall over Zeke. Like end of the 3rd round, beginning of the 4th round, I'm comfortable pulling the trigger on Zeke. You can say a lot of his inefficiency was because of the PCL injury last year, but man, he's been so inefficient. He's been so inefficient. I'm in a league where touchdowns aren't as significant as yards. Yeah, it will, James. It will sync to these settings. I actually don't know if it will yet, but this is something that it will do very soon because we literally just released League Sync. But yeah, if you go to the settings, look, if I go to the settings. And you can scroll down, look, it has like the different scoring for the different stats, because that is really important. Like to make sure this is custom to your league, you want to adjust this, and you can manually go in and it will save this. So definitely do that before your draft, because that's obviously very important. You want this is part of the reason I'm so excited about League Sync, because as a content creator in fantasy, like one of the hardest things as a content creator is giving people like advice that is gonna be pertinent to their league in their situation, right? People are in PPR leagues, half PPR leagues, non-PPR leagues, 6 points for passing touchdowns, 4 points for passing touchdowns, 10 points for there's 2 points for interceptions. Like the scoring settings are all over the place, and it really does impact how I feel in different situations. And that's what League Sync is going to help with. Like it's going to adjust for all of that. So I'm really excited for that reason. If you get to choose, what pick would you want in a 14-person PPR draft? Yeah, I want second overall. I want Christian McCaffrey. So I want second overall. I think that's probably the pick I want the most this year. And I mean, you're taking that from a guy who wanted the first overall pick last year and did get the first overall pick in a few drafts and did draft Christian McCaffrey in a few drafts. But I'm not going to let the fear of injury outweigh the reward of winning my fantasy league. I'm just not going to let that happen. So I probably want the second overall pick. If not, I do like the middle of the draft as well, where you're getting guys like Najee, Dalvin Cook in the first round, and you can follow it up with some pretty elite talent in the second round. Also, we have our first kicker taken in the draft. Walter's telling me to go wide receiver here, and look who's rising to the top. Jamison Elite Crowder. I think I will go with Jamison Elite Crowder in this draft. Who's my bold prediction for the Buffalo Bills is that Jamison Elite Crowder will actually outscore Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis went in the 4th or 5th round. Maybe it was the first pick of the 6th round. Yeah, first pick of the 6th round in this draft, which is late for him. I got James Crowder in one of the last picks in the 11th round, a full 6 rounds later. Jamison Crowder is going a full 6 rounds later than Gabriel Davis in PPR leagues. Like I just won't be that surprised if he outscores Gabriel Davis. Cole Beasley outscored Gabriel Davis last year, and Cole Beasley was not very good last year. The year before that, Cole Beasley outscored Gabriel Davis, and Cole Beasley was a little bit better that year. But I mean, Jamison Crowder in the slot for Josh Allen is, I think, a pretty solid, like very, very late PPR pick. What pick do you want? 8-man PPR. Yeah, 8-man PPR. I've not done an 8-man PPR draft, but I do I do think probably middle, like fourth pick in an 18 PPR draft sounds very, very good to me because in the top 4 picks, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, whatever order you have those guys in, you're going to get one of those guys at 4 overall, and then you're probably going to have some absolute elite guys left in the second round in an 8-person league. I think Gabriel Davis sees a lot more time on the field this year. He 100% will. I mean, this is why he's getting drafted so early. Like it's why it's a bold take for me to say Jamison Crowder is going to outscore him. I'm not projecting that. It's a bold take. Gabriel Davis has shown pretty good efficiency. But the reason I've sort of like just no, I will not get any Gabriel Davis this draft season is he had that one massive game. And that one massive game against the Pats is sort of the reason that's driving his cost up so high. Like I think actually where he went in this draft is very reasonable. Like I could open up to Gabriel Davis in the 6th, 7th round of drafts. I think that's pretty fair. You're getting the number 2 receiver probably for Josh Allen, who's likely going to lead the number 1 offense in the league this season. So like I get the case there, but I've seen him go in the 4th round. I've seen him go in the 3rd round. And I think that's just absolutely insane for a guy that literally could get outscored by Jamison Crowder this season. All right. We're going to be back on the clock very soon for one of our last picks. Do you think Monty could finish top 10 running backs? Yeah, he definitely can. He's just got to stay healthy. I think people sleep on like how big of a workhorse David Montgomery has been when he is healthy. Like he gets one of the best workloads in the league. He was 2nd in snap percentage last season. He was top 10 in carries. He was top 25 in targets. Like he really is very, very involved in that offense when he's healthy. All right. We are on the clock. I probably should go with another tight end. I'm going to go with Noah Fant, who, like, again, 12th round. If I'm going to wait on tight end, I probably will get a decent amount of Noah Fant. At the same time, though, he's probably going to be very inconsistent in season-long leagues. It's going to be so hard to predict which week Noah Fant is actually going to do anything in a run-first offense as the third receiving weapon. But I am optimistic that Drew Lock is going to win that starting role. So I sort of like that Drew Lock could already have that connection with Noah Fant. And I'm also getting him in the 13th round. And for people that saying David Montgomery is trash, David Montgomery averaged the 12th most fantasy points per game at running back position last year, 15.1 fantasy points per game. And based on the volume he got, he actually should have scored more than that. But the offense is so bad. The offensive line is so bad. But he was 5th in red zone touches. Like he has a huge workload. But the offense is obviously trash. And the offensive line is trash. So, like, I understand the concerns with him, but I think he's getting drafted like 4th round. Let's see, where did Montgomery go in this draft? Yeah, he was at like middle of the 3rd round. That's probably a little bit early for David Montgomery. But if you do season-long projections, like Montgomery is going to end up being projected a lot. But yeah, the offense is horrible. So I definitely think his floor is pretty low because of the offense. What to say to people who are struggling with the idea of a wide receiver in round 1 as it's becoming more popular? Yeah, it's definitely, like, for good reason becoming more popular, but like we also are seeing some pretty elite receiver seasons, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Cooper Kupp just had the best fantasy season of all time in PPR leagues. Justin Jefferson is flirting with record-breaking seasons as well. He's already broken several records. Like, I think those 2 guys especially are in their own tier, Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. To me, like, Jamar Chase isn't quite in the same tier as them, though I could easily see him passing both guys in his second year. We do see, like, historically speaking, the most elite wide receivers that we've seen in the NFL, they break out biggest in year 2. Like, this is Jamar Chase literally could take a year 2 leap. He was actually out targeted by T. Higgins like in the back half of the season, and he still put up monster numbers. So if that flips, like, Jamar Chase is going to just explode this season. So I think taking those 3 guys like early in drafts, I'm fine with. I'm fine with taking Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Devontae Adams too. But I think there's a big drop off after those 6 receivers. Those are the only 6 receivers. Sorry, is that 6 or yeah, it's 6. Those are the only 6 receivers I'm really like considering in the first round, even in really the first like 2 rounds. I think there's a pretty big drop off after that. You don't sync to CBS. No, we do not sync to CBS yet. But we will work on getting some more platforms on there. But you actually can, like, even if you don't sync, you can still manually input your picks as the draft is going on, and you can obviously put in your settings as well and still get all the same insights. What QB should I mostly want? Yeah, I just posted a video about this. You can watch. I actually think it was my last video. Three QBs I really like: Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance. But Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts in a lot of drafts are going to be picked too early for me to get them. like 4th, 5th, 6th round. So I'll probably wait for Trey Lance and take him in the 10th round, 9th round. I think he went really late. Yeah, he went 9th round in this draft. I absolutely love that. He averaged 50 rushing yards a game in his 3 games, very small sample size as a rookie. But if he averaged 50 rushing yards a game throughout the season, he would be the number 2 rushing quarterback in the league, only behind Lamar Jackson. He would be ahead of Jalen Hurts with those numbers. And there's obviously tons of room to grow as a passer too. You single-handedly won me my league last year. Listen to everything you said. Thanks. Let's go, man. We're running it back though. It is a new season, man. You gotta relish in the glory for like a couple more weeks, and then you gotta get back on the fantasy grind, preparing to go back to back. There's no better feeling. If you think winning your league once was a good feeling, going back to back and just showing your true dominance to your fantasy league, there's nothing better than that, man. What are your first round picks? Yeah, I'm actually going to be posting a draft, probably a video, probably sometime in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, where I go through what I think the first 3 rounds should look like. But I mean, there's a lot of good options in the first 2 rounds. I like I said, I think the first 4 picks should be Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, especially in PPR leagues. Thoughts on Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams' new situations in regard to fantasy? Yeah, I'm a little more nervous about Tyreek Hill than I am Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams already has a connection with Derek Carr from their college days. But I think there's a little bit of reason to be nervous about both, because both were in really, really good situations with really, really good quarterbacks, MVP winning quarterbacks. So I'm definitely nervous, like just a little bit more than I would be had they stayed where they were. But both guys are probably going to be fine. Both guys are absolutely insane at what they do. So I'm still comfortable ranking them both as top 10 wide receivers in fantasy. But I do think there's a little bit of added risk with both guys. Like, it's going to be hard for either of them to be better than they have been. Who's the person that is getting left out of the draft since you're also drafting? This is not a 32-person draft. This is a 14-person draft that anyone in our Discord could join. You can join our Discord, by the way, if you want to join these mock drafts in the future. Link is in the link tree on TikTok. Raiders WalterPicks asked me to grade his team. Let's take a look. Brian Fickman is the third overall pick. He went Derrick Henry. I personally would have gone Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson here, like I've been saying. But I mean, fading the big dog is probably going to come back to bite me. If Derrick Henry stays healthy, and it's honestly, you can say, well, this is the same argument you're making for Christian McCaffrey, and I think that's fair. If Derrick Henry stays healthy, he's worth a top 3 pick for sure. He is also older and has a lot more touches on his name than Christian McCaffrey does, but he also doesn't catch many passes. It's not like that really, really matters if he's going to average over 100 rushing yards a game. What site are you drafting on right now? This is the draft on Sleeper right now. And I'm using the WalterPicks app synced to my Sleeper League right now if you're watching live on YouTube. All right, Derrick Henry, then 3 straight wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Marquise Brown. Yeah, I think am I on the clock right now? No, I'm not. I think that I like these receivers, obviously. I mean, the running back situation is looking pretty bleak, though, after Derrick Henry. And I don't really love the Rashad Penny pick either. I know there was a recent report he's going to get 20 carries a game. He's another guy, like, if he stays healthy, obviously, he can be huge. Like we saw, he was the most efficient running back the last 6 weeks of the season last season. He's also on a team with a bottom 5 offensive line, a team with a bottom 5 quarterback, and a team with a bottom 5 defense. And he's historically really struggled with injuries, one of the most injury-prone players in the entire league, and he's your running back too. So I don't feel great about that. I do love the Mondre Stevenson pick, though. Makes that running back group a little bit better. Claypool, Patrick, and Chark. I liked those picks as well. I'd say really deep receivers. Obviously, Kyler is absolute money, and I think he was – see how close he was to Jalen Hurts. I'd probably like – yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid value for Kyler Murray, especially if you look where Josh Allen and Mahomes went in this draft. Yeah, I'd probably say, if I would say rank this team out of 10, probably like an 8, honestly. I like the Marquise Brown, Kyler Murray stack too. I'd say I'm most concerned about the running back position. Also, like, I don't know if any of your running backs are catching passes this season, which is definitely a little concerning in a PPR league. All right. What do you prefer between Tyreek Hill and Debo? Definitely, I'd take Debo over Tyreek Hill. What are some round 3-4 wide receivers that you love? Let's take a look at some of the round 3-4 wide receivers that were taken. Oh, I'm on the clock. What is Walter's telling me? Marvin Jones right now. Let's take a look at the wide receivers. Sammy Watkins is still there. Actually, I'm not going to go with Marvin Jones. I'm actually going to go with one of my favorite late round guys this season. That's Paris Campbell. I'll tell you why in just a second. But yeah, some of the round 3, round 4, I think wide receivers is what you were asking. I definitely like T. Higgins the most in round 3 if he gets there. I think he has a chance to be like almost as good as Jamar Chase. I don't think he's going to be as good as Jamar Chase, but he was averaging more targets per game than Jamar Chase in the back half of last season, and he's still extremely young. I like T. Higgins a lot. I think he's also going to be one of the more consistent guys. I do like taking A.J. Brown in round 3 too, but I do worry about him being on a run-first offense and not being able to be as consistent as we might like. I like Keenan Allen. Probably my favorite round 4 receiver, if he ends up sliding that far, is Michael Pittman. Though I think Michael Pittman is like going to be just peppered with targets from Matt Ryan, even on a run first team. We've seen Matt Ryan historically go full on with his top receiver. We've seen it obviously with guys that are better than Michael Pittman, like Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. But Michael Pittman's better than people realize too. Extremely efficient route runner. A lot of the advanced metrics on him are really positive, and he hasn't been with a good quarterback in it really like his entire career. He was 15th in receptions last season, 22nd in fantasy points per game. I expect all that to go up this year. And he also was actually relatively consistent. And there's just no one behind Michael Pittman except for Paris Campbell, who I think is going to beat out Alec Pierce, their rookie, to be the number 2 receiver on the Colts. I think if anyone's going to be this year's Rashad Penny, it's going to be Paris Campbell. And I'll tell you like what I mean by that in just a second. Let me take one more player in this draft. I'm not going to take a kicker or a defense. I guess we'll go with, man, like the running backs really do dry up just so insanely fast. We'll go with Nico Collins instead. I'm just drafting wide receivers because I'm used to underdog. But the reason I think Paris Campbell is going to be this year's Rashad Penny, what was Rashad Penny last year? Nobody that wasn't watching closely even knew who Rashad Penny was before last season because he spent his entire first 2 or 3 years in the league injured. It was his first 3 years in the league. He played he missed most of the games. His rookie season, he actually played 13 games, but he barely actually played in those games. So nobody really knew who Rashad Penny was because he just kept getting hurt. And even at the beginning of 2021, he was hurt last season. But then he wasn't hurt anymore. And we saw what he could be. And he was an absolutely insane prospect coming out of college. One of the most athletic prospects we've seen, 93rd percentile size-adjusted speed score. And he had a healthy run at the back end of last season. We saw what he could do. I think Paris Campbell could be something like that. Paris Campbell was a really good prospect coming out of college. 99th percentile athlete. This dude can fly. He's 6 feet, 205 pounds, and runs a 4.3 40-yard dash. But he cannot stay healthy since he's been in the league. He's played a total of 9 games his first 2 seasons, only 6 games last year. But I think this could be the year. If he can just have a longer stretch of health with right now, he is fully healthy. I think Paris Campbell could be this year's Rashad Penny, a guy that people just don't really even know that much about because he's always been hurt, but is extremely, extremely athletic. Thoughts on lines in fantasy? Yeah, I like DeAndre Swift a lot. What rookies are worth taking? Yeah, understanding the rookies is such a massive part of winning your drafts. I did take a rookie in this mock draft I'm doing right now, and I took Breece Hall in the 3rd round. I'm very bullish on Breece Hall, and this was a 14-person league. He's probably going to be going in the 4th round in most of the home leagues out there. But Breece Hall was the number 1 running back prospect in this class. He's on the Jets, which is not great, but he also is an elite receiver who's going to get 65% of the work. We already saw it with Saquon. He was a top 5 fantasy football running back his rookie season. I think we could see something similar with Breece Hall as a Jet. And someone just asked about the 0 running back strategy. I actually have the book right here. I've read this twice that the 0 running back strategy is based off of. It's called Anti-Fragile. The 0 running back strategy is based on something called anti-fragility, which means it's something that gains from disorder. That's the definition of anti-fragile. It's the opposite of fragile, something that gains from disorder, right? Fragile things break from disorder. A glass will break if you drop it. An anti-fragile glass will get stronger when you drop it. That's what your team does with the 0 running back strategy. As running backs get hurt, your team gets better because you didn't draft those early running backs. And in fact, you drafted their backups. So that's sort of the core of the 0 running back strategy. I do think it can work. I don't think it's the best strategy for a traditional season-long league. I think it's a really high-risk strategy in a traditional season-long league, but like in big tournaments, like an underdog, I do think the 0 running back strategy has a lot of merit. And you can obviously build monster teams with the 0 running back strategy if you just get the right guys on the waiver wire and hit on a couple, even just one late-round running back. I mean, you're going to build just a monster squad. So I don't think it's by any means a thing you can't do. Can you post all your books or a screenshot of your books to an Instagram or something or another, that's a good idea. Actually, if you follow me on Twitter at Samuel Factor, I might have done that a while ago. But yeah, I can definitely post. I'm a big sucker for like the self-help books. So a lot of those are like self-help business type books, but I can definitely do something like that. A lot of good books out there. I've been a little bit behind, honestly, on my reading. All right. We're in the last round of this mock draft. We are, Evan Ingram, not even going to get drafted, not in this draft. I'm definitely waiting on tight end in most of my season-long drafts this year. Evan Ingram is probably the number 2 or number 3, probably number 3 behind Etienne, behind Christian Kirk. He's probably going to be the number 3 passing option for the Jaguars. And the Jaguars could finish top 10 in passing attempts. And I get that Evan Ingram, like, we got to cut it. Like, enough, Sam. We give up on Evan Ingram at this point. But he's been on the Giants his entire career. A Giants team that's been so abysmal over the last 5 years. And he had actually one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever. Like, he had a really good rookie tight end season where he had 700 yards in 15 games as a rookie. In rookie tight ends tend to really, really struggle. I think like it's still a very good thing on his profile. He still is, like, for his size, he's insanely fast. And I do think he could be close to an every down player on a team that's top 10 in passing attempts. Yeah, I'll rate your team. What's the best way to use the app? Walter app on phone and draft on computer? Yeah, James, definitely. Definitely the best way is to have the app open on your phone and you're drafting on your computer. I definitely would say that's the best way to use the league sync functionality, especially. All right, let me make my last pick here. We will take Evan Ingram with my last pick in this mock draft. Let's take a look at this hot dog QD team. Stephon Diggs, Alvin Kamara, obviously if he doesn't get suspended. George Kittle, Eli Mitchell. I don't really love stacking George Kittle, Eli Mitchell. Michael Thomas is your wide receiver 2. I would prefer him to be my wide receiver 3, but I do like Michael Thomas. I think are overreacting to the pup news. Joe Burrow, Tyler Lockett, Russell Gage, Nyheim Hines. Yeah, I'm definitely a little nervous about your running backs with the suspension situation. Also, there's been some negative reports about Elijah Mitchell splitting more work this season, which is definitely scary. I would probably honestly rank this team 5 out of 10. I'd give you 5 out of 10 for this draft. All right. We are going to wrap up the mock draft. Let me stop sharing my screen. Let's take a look at my team in the WalterPicks app really quickly. Terry McLaurin, Rashad Bateman, Tony Pollard, Tom Brady, Robert Woods, Irv Smith, Derek Carr, Jamison Crowder, Noah Fant, Paris Campbell, Nico Collins, Evan Ingram, DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Breece Hall. I like it. I like how my team ended up here, honestly. I think this is a good sign for things to come in the actual drafts that I'll do. How do you feel about Chase, Mixon, Stack? I don't hate it, but I would prefer a different running back than Mixon if I snagged Jamar Chase. What is your sleeper QB this year? It's Trey Lance. You want guys that run. You want quarterbacks that run. So Trey Lance in like the 9th round is probably my favorite sleeper quarterback this season. All right, we're going to wrap up the YouTube live. Everyone on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet. We'll be doing more drafts like this. Hope you guys love the league sync functionality, by the way. Make sure if you want to see the full board, join our Discord. The link to join the Discord is in the YouTube description. It's also in our link tree in the TikTok bio. You can get the link straight to the league in the Discord. So definitely join our Discord. It's completely free to join. And you'll also know ahead of time about these drafts, about these live streams, if you do join the Discord. All right, YouTube Live, thank you so much for joining. Time is the most valuable thing we have. So thank you for spending some time with me today. I'll be back sometime next week. Have a good one, guys. All right.